Greetings, weary traveler, come, warm yourself by the fire, and let us regale you with mighty tales, tales of adventure, tales of heroism, and of course, tales of Tamriel. I'm your host Arkhaniir, and I'm joined by our amazing co-hosts, as always, starting with the man, the myth, the legend, Lotus of Doom. How's it going, Lotus?
Going pretty well.
Also joining us, the joy of the show, the giggle queen herself, although she's an Altmer, HyperPixie. How's it going, Pixie?
Already? It's going good.
Sorry, I had to start it with that since our pre-show discussions. Had it riled up in me. So, disclaimer right off the beginning. For some reason, we are feeling like we haven't done this in a while, at least Pixie and I don't know about Lotus, but it might be a strange episode. I don't know. We'll see how this goes. However,
Pixie's
before...
also sleep deprived along with Ark, just to clarify.
Yeah, I feel like I'm the only one fully awake, so that's fine.
This will be alright. But before we begin everything, gotta give a shout out to all our supporters. That is the Bunninator, Jelly, and Brutus, all on Twitch with a Twitch subscription. Thank you all so very much. And I just want to say, the shout outs we do here are for the first times. We have an amazing group of people who support us monthly, with like recurring subscriptions on Patreon and things like that. We just can't give them a shout out every month here, otherwise this section alone would get pretty long.
Half the show.
Yeah. So we generally just do the first time, but do know that your resubs and continuous Patreon subs are really, really appreciated as well.
Yes.
That said, today I realized, so I was checking out whether if we had any iTunes reviews or not for this week, and I realized something. iTunes, like the store, the podcast page also is separated by the country. So you know how there's iTunes US store, iTunes like UK, wherever, Turkey. Apparently, the page for Tales of Tamriel on iTunes are separated as well. And we've been only looking at the US reviews.
Oh dear.
Oh no.
And yeah, we have... So before the show I checked, and there's like iTunes Canada, iTunes Great Britain,
Oh, no.
iTunes Turkey.
Oh no.
Now, there aren't recent reviews on those specifically. Although we have like spread out to these stores, we have reviews there as well, which I will be checking as many as I can from now on those stores as well, so we can read them here and give a proper shout out. Know that
Have we ever addressed that? Like, did Ag know that those were separated too when he was?
I don't know, because I haven't, like, I realized this just before the show, so I didn't read them at the moment, at least, because they weren't like I think at least from the countries I checked, the most recent one was late 2019, so it was a few months ago at least.
Oh.
But from now on, I will still be making sure to check those out. And these are the written reviews, so we can't see the non-written reviews. So if you just give us whatever stars, but don't put any comment to it, we can't see it. Or at least I don't know how to see it. I'm
No,
not
I
well
don't believe
versed
you
in,
can.
Yeah, iTunes
It's still
and
greatly
Apple
appreciated,
stuff.
of course. You don't have to
Yes,
type anything,
yes.
but we're happy to thank you via your name if we actually can read it.
So I wanted to mention that if we have in the past missed your reviews, and you're outside of US, that is probably why that happened. And Nightbot just nuked Pylon in chat.
Great.
Sorry about that, yeah.
Incredible. Thank you, Nightbot.
Pylon was trying to help us.
Yeah.
Pylon's trying to help us. Got completely obliterated by our good friend Nightbot.
Nightbot does not I appreciate help. If it's gonna be a dumpster fire, it's gonna be a dumpster fire.
Gonna
The
happen.
bad thing is, I feel partially responsible for this because, like Pylon was saying in chat, he discovered this on UESP and he told me, "Oh my god, I just realized I can't see anything outside of Canada and any reviews outside of Canada." And I didn't put two and two together. That it would probably be a Tales problem too. I'm just like, I'm sure somebody knows what they're doing.
Yeah, to be fair, why wouldn't this be a thing? We're just going to have to go through all of the people that never got acknowledged because we didn't know they were polite enough to review for us. And just be like, here's a bonus episode. It's us reading really outdated reviews for the past 6 years from out of the US.
But yeah, so just wanted to mention that as well because it's a big thing to
Why would
figure
they
out.
do that? Like, why would it separate that? Why couldn't they condense it into one easy to read file? This is so behind the scenes.
According to Pylon, it happened when they switched to podcast.apple.com. And before, so apparently it's like a year ago. So around when I took over, I guess.
Great.
I made
Perfect.
this happen. Yeah.
So it just seems like you hate everyone outside of the US, which falls right into the whole racist Nord thing.
So I hate
see.
But
myself
you're not
as
in
well.
the US.
So I
Yeah.
I
My
realized what I
review is
said
the
after I
worst.
said it.
I'm trash.
Deep breaths.
So we have a couple of behind the scenes updates as well. One is about this specific episode. My internet, or rather the internet of my ISP within the entire city has been spotty over the weekend. So this show might cut into pieces if we lose connection and things like that. I would have to edit them together, but you might notice the cuts and editing parts and things like that, just to let you know. So far so good, but I don't know what's gonna happen after this. Another thing I wanted to mention is I've been planning this out, well not planning it out, but thinking about this for a while. So we have the pre-show and post-show collections for our tier 2 Patreon supporters, but I wanted to do something for like both tiers on Patreon, all of our like Twitch supporters and things like that as well. And initially, so I'm still thinking about ideas, but initially what I'm going to start doing is, my favorite thing about Tales of Tamriel back when I was a listener was the readings of Thais, the original co-founder. So I will be compiling those with their permission into like, I don't know, I will check the durations, but probably like 1 hour reading parts. I will go through the entire backlog with the episodes that Thais joined, because they were my favorite things in Tales of Tamriel. We even used to call Egelos and any other host the fillers.
Yep.
And
I remember that.
Thais' readings, the actual main show. So I'm gonna be putting those for all of our supporters as well. That's just to give something back, and I will be thinking about more stuff as well.
And those
So-
are so old at this point. It might be nice for people who are new to the show meaning like, okay, you've been here for 3 years or less and haven't made it through 700 hours of podcasts over the years.
So I've actually never heard these because I started listening after this. So this
They're
is
really
actually
good.
new to me.
They're
too.
really good. She does a great job of reading them.
I want to hear them.
Honestly, those were the best of this show. And yeah, that's the thing about, I mean, we are currently recording episode 233, and that means a massive backlog. And I honestly we've been brainstorming between us how to, like, could we somehow segmentate it, I don't know, make it easier to navigate, things like that, but so far haven't been able to come up with an idea. but I want to at least get the readings compiled together. So.
And I totally will listen to those.
Yep.
Oh, you'll
I
be
need
in
to hear
for a
them.
treat.
They're great. Yeah. They did such a great job back then.
Okay, so that was the introduction to the show. A lot to mention. We had a lot
Yeah.
to mention.
Lots of behind the scenes updates.
So, on to the news, and then the discussion topic that will probably be the main thing about this show, at least this episode. But before we roll into that, Dominic. So there's a new article for in the series of Greymoor previews. There is a new article about basically the land that will be added with Greymoor. So that is, as we know, Western Skyrim and Blackreach. And we have a few comments on this from the art director and hold on, I keep forgetting his job because his name is Ed Stark and it keeps reminding me Game of Thrones.
Yeah, no, it's Ned Stark.
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about too.
Sure.
I always see Ned Stark.
Yeah, Greymoor Zone Lead. There we go. And so they mentioned, this is something that made me very happy. The full article you can find on the Elder Scrolls Online website. But they mentioned that geographically, it will be Skyrim. So if you are very well familiar with Skyrim from Elder Scrolls V Skyrim, you won't have a problem navigating Western Skyrim without a map. So it will be that similar in terms of geography. But since it's like several hundred years ago, there will be different things, obviously, like new pathways, different caves, different places to discover. But geographically, the layout will be the same. Well, not same, but familiar to people who are familiar with Skyrim, which really makes me happy. I will really enjoy that feeling of nostalgia. Actually,
Me too. I'm really looking forward to that.
does it count as nostalgia since we are going to be actually in the past?
Oh God.
Oh no! Please don't do this to me right now.
Dragon break.
I mean, this whole virus thing has us kind of in what feels like a time warp right now, which is why
That's true.
Ark and I feel like we haven't done a Tales episode in a month.
Yeah, maybe we're just in a dragon break right now, and everything is actually fine.
You know, I would actually believe that. Things have been nuts.
Solitude will be very much similar, apparently, but it will feel more Nordic. So it's actually pure Nord version of Solitude in ESO is the actual term they used, really. So I'm really excited about that as well.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
In addition to that, so there's obviously a part about Blackreach as well, which will be about 40% of Greymoor Chapter, which will be completely underground. However, it is mentioned that some of the caves will be so high that you won't see the ceiling, and some of them will be so like compact that it will feel like a forest. I can't really imagine how not seeing the ceiling in a cave will feel like from art perspective. Like when we look up with the camera, will we just see a pure black thing, like emptiness, or I don't know, dust? I don't know how they are gonna make that happen. Like graphically, I have no idea how that's gonna work. But I'm really excited. At the beginning, I was really kind of sad that 40% of a Skyrim chapter will be underground, which I really didn't care about. But after doing the prologue quest and seeing the Blackreach in ESO, I was like, oh, okay, I like this. This is good.
Yeah, I did the prologue quest a while back, and the part of Blackreach that you're in. So I had done the Skyrim mod, the Live Another Life one, and I was like, I'm a necromancer in a secret location. Because of course I'm going to be a necromancer in Skyrim too. And it started me in Blackreach, and the place that I walked out of, that's like where it takes place in the prologue quest. So I instantly recognized my escape route because it was me frantically running through there at level 1 and trying to sneak also.
Gosh.
And it was terrifying. It was a mess, and eventually I got out, and I remember seeing the Dwemer thing in the distance that I used to get out the tower, and it was perfectly represented, and I was just so ecstatic whenever I saw that it was the same.
In the prologue quest, you can actually see the I want to say elevator. I don't know what the dwarven elevator things are called, but you can actually see the one that brings you up to the Elder Scroll in Skyrim and things like that. Obviously, it doesn't work, but we might get, I don't know, some Easter eggs about it, maybe. As well as you can see that the glowing sun-like thing in the cage that spawns a dragon if you shout at it. But again, you can't go there at the moment, at least during the quest. But I don't know. I expect a lot of Easter eggs to happen in Blackreach. Like, there's gotta be. There's gotta be a quest about the Crimson Nirn route. There's gotta be a quest about dwarven stuff. Maybe the Elder Scrolls itself. I don't know.
I hope we get a new... Crimson Nirn root should be our new alchemy ingredient. We got all sorts of dragon chunks last time.
Yeah.
I will be surprised if it's not, to be completely honest with you.
Yeah, that'd be pretty weird.
They missed an easy opportunity there.
Yeah, that would definitely be kind of a strange whiff.
Yeah. Now, this part will actually make Pixie happy, because it talks about the Nords of the Western Skyrim. And it talks about them as that they are a lot less welcoming, even to the Nords that are not from Western Skyrim, let alone other races.
You think
But
we
at
all
the
know
same
that.
but at the same time, it describes them as, Western Skyrim Nords enjoy tales and legends, songs and feasts, and drinking and fighting, brawling, things like that. I added the last two about fighting, but I'm sure it's true.
Yeah, no, that's
But those are my favorite Nords, so I think I'll really enjoy Western Skyrim Nords. My problem will be if they act weird towards me, because our character is not from Western Skyrim, even if it is, sort of. Like, you know what I mean? Like, let's say I'm role-playing my character as someone from Solitude. I don't know. It's not my character's from Whiterun, but if that was the case, and the Nords there or the High King comes up to me like, "You're not from Western Skyrim," and I'll be like, "Dude, I am. Maybe not in games lore, but I am." So I don't know how that's gonna go. I hope we get to be friendly with these guys after at least doing some quests or things like that. I hope they are not always distant and unwelcoming, because I think I'll like these guys more than Yorun or the people in Rift, East March, things like that.
Now, I will say that at the end, and spoiler alert for the prologue quest if you haven't done it yet, at the very end, Lyris tells you that there's this whole political divide, and so she has to get Joran to talk to the High King of Western Skyrim, whose name is escaping me at the moment. I also don't know if I can pronounce it correctly. Those two have to talk.
Or something like that.
Yes,
Yeah.
Swagrin.
Yeah, that was not going to come out correctly. So,
We'll just
those
pretend that was in your voice.
okay, works for me. Ark has his editing magic. Maybe he can raise voices a few octaves. And
Perfect.
if you accept that challenge. So they have to. So Lyris is like, no, you can't go there yet. These two have to kind of talk it out and come to an agreement before the vampires kill us all. So I think it's a pretty safe bet that they're not going to be particularly thrilled that they're there, but tolerating our presence, no matter if we're a Nord or not, because you're a follower of Joran at that point. Or in my case, just someone who happened to help Joran for some reason because Lyris asked you to.
True. Actually, I wonder if the dialogue will in any way will change, whether if you're from Pact or not. Like, how did Joran act towards you in the prologue quest?
I don't really remember anything strange. God, it's been a couple weeks now.
Yeah.
And so I just need to do it again. I'll do it on my Altmer.
I would imagine, though, because when you go through the other alliances, like, no matter how horrific I was when doing the AD storyline, they were always like, oh, yeah, that's totally fine. Like, so it's not like they specifically knew that I was running amok from the pack side of things or anything like that. And same thing with Daggerfall. So my guess is just, it's like, oh, yeah, you're just a hero being hero-like, so I guess you're fine.
Yeah, I don't remember. Nothing sticks out, so I don't think he said anything, because the entire time I did that part of the quest with Joran, I was taking screenshots that I then sent to you guys to antagonize you. The lovely one of him all bundled up in the chains was my favorite, but he didn't say much that stuck out to me. Otherwise, I would have screenshotted it and sent it to you guys to talk about it on the show.
Right.
So since I didn't send you anything, I don't remember, but I could just be. It's been a while.
Yeah, I guess it was. I mean, it would be very difficult, right? I don't know.
Yeah, that's some weird loophole-y stuff. Actually, I mean, this is a pretty quick side tangent, but since we're talking about the prologue, so none of this is off the Sai Sahan being dead thing. None of us killed Lyris, right?
I don't know anyone who killed Lyris.
Okay.
In the main quest.
Let me just say that as much as I kind of ripped on how I thought it was super lame, like the explanation behind Sai Sahan, which I won't go into without like doing spoiler stuff, so we're not going to do that. But I just didn't care for
spoilers now. It's been the
Greymoor
chapter is about to release.
So I mean, not that this is spoilery anyways, especially if you didn't even kill Sai Sahan, then it really wouldn't matter. But I thought the explanation for him being back was kind of weak. However, had an option to talk to Lyris about Sai not actually being dead in the prologue, which was awesome because she gets really angry.
Share.
So I was like, oh, have you talked to Sai? And she's like, that's a pretty messed up joke. Like, why would you even bring that up? And I'm like, you know he's alive, right? And she's like, what? I was like, yeah, he's chilling over in Elsewhere. He reformed the Dragon Guard, just saying. And she's like, well, we'll deal with that later since he can't be bothered to send a messenger or even try to contact me. I was like, oh, that's awesome.
That is good.
God.
That is good.
Poor
Yes.
Because
I was super pleased. I was like, what? That's so cool.
I mean,
it's really great storytelling, but oh my God, poor Lyris.
I couldn't
you
believe that it was an option. I was like, dude, this is so sweet.
And like, if you haven't killed Sai, you still get a dialogue option like, "Have you talked to Sai?" But it's just normal, you know. She doesn't go off like, "What do you mean?"
Oh
or,
no,
she
was pissed.
What I'm curious about is though, so at the end of, since you know how every DLC and every chapter somehow like mentions the upcoming one. So at the end of Elsewhere. Storyline, Season of the Dragon storyline ending, you talk to Sai, and Sai, you ask Sai like, okay, what are you gonna do now? And Sai goes, yeah, I guess I'll just find Lyris, you know, Snow Lily, and things like that. What does Sai Sahan say to you if you had killed Lyris?
Yes,
I haven't found anyone who killed Lyris. I just saw Bob ask Dogged. Whether if he had killed Lyris, But yeah, if anyone has killed Lyris in the original 6 years ago main story with the Amulet of Kings stuff, and
So
you have answer
I
to
have a
our
friend who
questions, please do answer
or
our questions.
maybe I just need to finish that quest line with Guarnir,
takes
so then
so-
he can just be a monster and have killed Lyris too.
No, but here's the thing: you will have to finish the main quest, kill Lyris, and then you will have to do the entirety of Season of the Dragon.
Yes, which is quite an undertaking, but it's weird because I seem to have all this free time on my hands. Maybe I can squeeze it in. We'll see how long. I made progress before I got distracted, so I know I think I'm halfway through the Soul Burst storyline. So maybe it wouldn't be too involved to do that because I'm really curious on that now, actually.
I think I have a friend who killed Lyris because I remember mentioning that anyone who killed Lyris is a monster, and he's like, I just wanted to see how it all played out. And I'm like, I don't change my former statement, but now I need to know. So remind me in the morning, and I will message him and see if I can get it. He's actually one of my coworkers.
Nice.
Oh,
nice. They're still your friend from Kiss.
I mean, he's my coworker also, and he also likes to he likes to kill Lyris. So I need to just not make him angry because then I could be next. So.
He clearly has no moral standing whatsoever.
Exactly, I have to tread lightly.
But yeah, if anyone knows what Sai says, if you had killed Lyris, or how do you react in the dungeons that we currently have, like in Ice Reach, when you see Lyris?
Right. Yeah, it wouldn't make sense for her to just be there.
Right.
We need to find the monster people who had chosen Lyris to kill.
She was, from what I remember in an interview, the lowest percentage.
Yeah.
By a pretty substantial margin.
Yeah.
I mean, quite honestly, there is no reason to kill Lyris. So, I was the largest percentage of New King Prophet because I was like,
yeah,
he caused it, he should end it.
Yeah, because he sucks.
All done.
Same.
Your explanation, Lotus, from God knows how many episodes back, was pretty good.
Yep.
Repeat. It was about Sai being very strong and strong build.
I actually think Sai is basically one of the best characters, and since we're trying to power up the amulet and infuse it with a companion's power, I didn't want some crusty old blind guy to power up my amulet because that's not going to give me any power to fight a Daedric prince. So he can just live with what he's done and be miserable in his rat cave. So I chose Sai because I was like, dude, this guy is awesome. I want his superpowers since I'm kind of self-righteous.
Yeah. And if you think about it, so Sai, we know that Sai withstood the torture of Morlock Ball. He is not only physically strong, but he has that, not magic, but Redguard super willpower swordmaster, sort of spiritual rather than magical, but he has some supernatural powers to him as well. At least that's what it feels like. Whereas Lyris can just punch a mountainside down. It's that's her thing. Which actually, in the prologue quest, I think I forgot to mention this. In the prologue quest, Lyris somehow gets blocked by a metal fence. She's like, oh no, they closed the gate. And I'm like, I watched you punch a hole in a mountainside in Cold Harbor. Yeah, how is this tiny metal fence keeping us apart and is forcing you to find a different route? It's like, have you lost your powers since Cold Harbor? What happened here?
Maybe on the plane of Cold Harbor, rocks are just weaker.
Maybe, yeah. That
She skipped arm day.
also Pushing Pixel says the magic is the beard for Sai-Sahan, and I agree with that.
Yeah, that's valid.
But yeah, that was the Explore a Skyrim both familiar and mysterious in Greymoor article in the website. If you want to read the whole thing, obviously it is available on ElderScrollsOnline.com. And that brings us to our discussion topic for this week. So, a little bit of a pre-info. This past week, like a couple days ago, Brian Wheeler, the lead PvP designer, or it's lead PvP designer or combat designer?
I believe he's the combat designer as a whole now.
Yeah. His forum title still says lead PvP designer, which is hence the confusion. Maybe they forgot to update it, or
anyway, I'm pretty sure he's full combat designer at this point.
Yeah, that's what I thought as well. Okay, we need to do a bug report. just take up time unnecessarily.
Yeah, well, because originally it was Eric Roble, and since he's no longer there, I thought that was what switched. Was semantics, I suppose. It doesn't really matter.
I mean, last episode I called Matt Fiver the president, so anything is possible.
That's true. President of ESO.
Yeah. So, yeah.
And then also you called Dominic Damien.
Yeah,
yep,
true.
Damien. True. Which, the fact that he clipped that, by the way, from the live broadcast, shout out to Dominic/Damien. That was awesome and hilarious.
I'm glad now I manually stop myself, because now it's embedded in my brain as Damien, but every time I'm about to say it, I now can't stop myself because the whole shenanigan. But basically, do not ask me about the job titles in ZeniMax or Bethesda. Apparently, I have no clue. I just know Mike Finnegan is the lead dungeon designer because #FUFin. That's all I know.
Yeah, and you live in his torture cells.
Yeah. Anyway, so basically, it's a forum post, and it's a preview of some of the combat updates coming with Greymoor Chapter Update 26. It's not the full patch notes, it's just a preview of some of the changes. So initially we knew that with Greymoor Vampire skill line was going to get a full rework, and in addition to that, Werewolves are getting an update as well, which makes me happy because, I mean, I've been a werewolf since, like, the werewolves were a thing. And I never used it, but I've always been a werewolf.
Rarely use because I'll do it sometimes in battlegrounds, but that's about the extent of it.
Yeah, I'm event tanking. It's quite useless. It has no reason to use whatsoever while tanking. But they are getting some changes, and apparently they are adding some buffs and debuff abilities to the werewolf skill line as well. I want to read the exact things. We are also making adjustments to allow buffing and debuffing to give a sense of being a pack leader. So when you mention there are buffs and debuffs, that might come in handy depending on what those buffs and debuffs are. That might make it sort of usable in tanking. Now I'm looking at this purely from the tanking perspective. It might not be best in slot because I don't think anything will beat the aggressive Warhorn for support. Support ultimates. But it might just be a fun thing to blend into the mix, especially if you are not that worried about min-maxing. Say you are not doing one of the hardest dungeons or you're not doing hard mode, so you just want to have fun. So maybe buffing and debuffing as a werewolf, depending on what buffs and debuffs they are, might be fun. We'll have to see.
Or questing. If you're not on a DPS character, it can get a little slow. Whereas if you're a tank, you don't need to respec to quest and not have it take a month. You could always just hop into werewolf form or something like that and maybe speed stuff up. I could see it being very useful for overland and stuff like that.
Yep, true. I actually never thought about that. I always change my build. Hunting's Rage and
questing,
things like that.
Sure, questing's not that big of a deal, but like a lot of times if people need help with like world bosses or whatever, if I just go into werewolf form and don't even switch anything except my monster helm, like off a tanking monster helm to like Villageth or something, I can solo any world boss in a reasonable amount of time for not being spec'd into DPS if you're a werewolf. Yeah. So if it's getting buffed, I mean, you could probably use a lot more of it just to speed things along if you need to.
I don't think it's getting a buff exactly, but just some playstyle changes.
Yeah.
So it says like Hersine's bounty now has some added functionality if you're already at full health and don't need the heal from the ability. So I don't know what it's gonna do, but say if you're at full health.
Yeah, I think it might be a resource buff at that point, or a resource return, not a buff. But like if it does something like that, that would be useful because you can burn through stuff real quick as a werewolf.
If you can't heal, here have some stamina back. That kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
So another thing, I actually don't know what this means. About a year ago, we started our standardization pass, and we are finishing that off in update 26 with monster masks and shoulders. I don't know what they started, what this standardization pass.
So the idea is to make things make sense. So like if you have a damage set, it doesn't have health buffs on it. Because this one specifically, what we're about to talk to with Scoria or whatever, it's like the first bonus was health, but it's a DPS monster set. So it's like, well, that's kind of weird. So now that it gets Spell Pen, that fits in line with a DPS set doing DPS things. There were also a lot of things where it was like, oh, this does, Magicka whatever. Also, it has a stamina buff earlier for like 3 pieces, which was like, why does it do this? So I think they've been working on normalizing that across the board, I think. And I guess this is just the newest set of them they're fixing.
Yeah. Okay, so that's gonna happen to monster masks and shoulders as well, apparently. And as it's the example you gave, Vulcan Scoria, instead of giving health and spell damage or whatever, it's gonna give spell penetration and whatever spell thing. Okay, yeah, that sounds good. I mean, I like hybrid sets. Because I like playing around with variety of things while still tanking, like not changing my build, but I don't know, adding weird buffs and bonuses to see what I can do, especially in PvP, like keep tanky but also deal some sort of damage, which I haven't really been able to do, but I understand it's not the best way to play. It's just fun to mess around with. So yeah, that's a good change, I guess. At least, yeah, as you said, makes more sense.
Yeah, it kind of just syncs up like you'd think it would.
It continues to talk about the changes to the monster sets and other sets in this sense. Not gonna go into too much detail with that. Then the Maelstorm part comes, but I'm gonna skip that and talk about the last part before we go into the discussion about Maelstorm weapons. So, lastly, they are making some changes to critical resistance and healing in PvP. Now, they are increasing the reduction of healing taken, which was 50% in PvP, the Battle Spirit debuff, or whatever we want to call it, to 60%. So, we used to get 50% reduced healing taken in PvP, now it's going to be 60%. And apparently the reason for this is people can heal themselves and everybody else very effectively. Which, if you have like a pure Templar healer, especially in like battlegrounds, it can get really annoying that no one dies. It can turn into just a healing fest, nothing goes down, things like that. At least that's my experience. They are also adding critical resistance as a base stat. So from now on, we will have base critical resistance to make more combinations, more customization for PvP builds. so that you don't have to always put like impen or always go for the same sets that give critical resistance, and they will be adjusting everything according to this change as well, which I like, because I sometimes really want to go into PvP without changing my build or sets at all, because I'm really tanky in them from PvE, but it doesn't give me any critical resistance, obviously, so I generally have to change my sets around to get some critical resistance in Battlegrounds. But with this change, I can just go in there with my pure tank build for PvE, and I believe it will just keep me as tanky as PvE with the base critical resistance stat as well. But we'll have to test it out as usual. Right, anything you guys want to add to this last part? Or shall we?
Not really. I mean, I like the idea behind it. Whether it works, as always, we'll see in practice. But the idea of having everybody not be a heal bot if they want to be, and also mixing things up enough, or ideally so that it's like with the crit resist, that won't be like the only choice unless you want to just get melted all the time. I would like to see a little more diversity with how you can build stuff, but you know, hopefully it works as intended, because at least it sounds good in theory.
Yeah, I mean, I've never been a fan of meta builds, which is why most of my tank builds tend to use not best in slot item sets. It's fun to play around with. But in PvP, like, you can pull that off in PvE, but in PvP, that just means you are gonna get smacked around. Like, not going for best in slot most of the time will get you smacked around. So I feel like this will change that a bit, allow a bit more room for messing around with things. So yeah, we'll see.
I will say, now that I know that heals are apparently OP right now, that makes me want to jump into Battlegrounds, because I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, you can heal bot it up. I actually got to get that healing achievement before it becomes problematic to get, because the healing is going to be drained a bit. So I got to make sure to get that before I can't get that achievement. If I could ever get that, speaking of crappy RNG, if I could ever get that damn Black Rose Prison healing staff, that'd make my life easy. But
okay, so the hot topic, the elephant in the room, the current inferno of the Elder Scrolls Online community. There are changes to the Maelstorm Arena and Dragon's Arena weapons. They used to just drop on Veteran. Just drop on Veteran Maelstorm Arena and Veteran Dragon's Arena. Now, and they didn't have perfected versions like the trial weapons. Now they are getting the perfected Veteran Maelstorm and perfected Dragon's Arena weapons. They will drop from veteran versions of these arenas, and the old versions, the ones that used to drop from veteran versions, the non-perfected ones, they will now drop from normal Maelstorm Arena and normal Dragon's Arena. Up until this point, this is a very good change.
yes, I like this quite a bit still.
First, it means you don't have to... See, the one thing about Elder Scrolls Online is that it caters to a wide variety of player base. So, even if you play it casually, semi-veteran, super hardcore, min-maxing as much as you can always stay relevant in the game. And bringing these weapons to normal Maelstorm Arena and normal Dragon's Arena allows for more casual players, or players who like to play on a higher skill level but can't put in the time due to family, work, whatever, to be relevant as well.
Sure.
Which is a really great change.
Yep.
The problem,
I agree.
the inferno, the tornado, the mess begins at the fact that your current Maelstorm and Dragonstar Arena weapons, which you got from veteran versions of these arenas, like through grinding and farming, will not be automatically upgraded to the perfected versions. So if you want the best version of these arena weapons, which are the perfected, you will have to go into Veteran Maelstorm Arena once again, hope that your RNG checks out again, and you get the perfected version of the weapon you have already farmed.
Yes.
Which is upsetting a lot of people and is currently creating a polarization within the community between people who are really upset and people who are fine with this change.
Right. And the thing is, I can understand why people who aren't upset like what they're saying, but at the same time, this seems like the way I've been putting it is, this seems like an unforced error on not making veteran players feel acknowledged, I guess, because you know, the majority of things have definitely skewed more toward the majority, which is not the like elite 1% of players who can melt VMA or Dragonstar Arena in 30 minutes or an hour respectively. So that is fine in my eyes, that it theoretically, okay, that's fine, whether it's a technical reason or whatever, why it's not going up. I don't know what the reason behind it is. It could just be like, well, we want people to grind it more or whatever. My problem also isn't the fact that I don't think it's like, okay, well, clearly they can melt it. Like if you've got if you run it 600 times because you're in the demographic who doesn't want to do it again, you're not going to have trouble going through VMA or running Dragonstar Arena again. That's not the problem. The problem comes from the fact that there's this RNG component that is totally devoid of skill. That is 100% luck what you're going to get as an item. So by not giving people anything, and it's not like you get nothing. I mean, you still get your weapon and it still does the same thing, which is good, but those people aren't looking for good. They're trying to be best in slot to be most efficient. Yep. It's weird that they're just leaving this goodwill on the table here if they don't do something to acknowledge the veterans who have grinded.
I have no idea what the past tense is on that word.
Yeah, especially in this context, because it's not quite the same as like I'm grinding coffee. It's like, this is a little weird. Who have ground this into the ground, I guess you would put it.
Farm. We can go with farm and farm.
Perfect. Farmed it into the ground. There we go. So that's, I think, more of the issue. If you knew you could go back in and it's like, okay, yes, you're not getting your upgrade, but if you run VMA again, you'll get the staff you want. That's not that to me doesn't seem like that would be that big of a deal. It's the problem that you have this nebulous, you need to run it some amount of times, and people, I was going to say, perfect example just because he's in chat, Mr. Crowley666 has mentioned running it like 600 times. He is not the only person that I know that has numbers quite like that. Inklings was well over 500. Berserk Zod, I think, was around 700.
Oh my gosh.
Some people just have god-awful RNG. So the fact that they hit their RNG finally, and now they have to do it again, it's the RNG component that is concerning to me personally. So they need to do... I would love it if they could minimize the RNG component, whether it's with, oh, well, you can pick the weapon you want at 10 tokens, and you get 1 token and a pull of a weapon every time you clear VMA or Dragonstar Arena. Well, you either get the pull in 10 things, or you just beat it 10 times so you can just buy the thing you want. and it gets rid of that nebulous thing you can't control. They've kind of done it with Monster Helms because the RNG started to get so extreme with all the DLC dungeons. I wish they would do something with that.
They could do like a coffer system where you have like a coffer of blunt weapons, which would be your maces and those that aren't sharp, the blunt ones. And then you have your blades, so your swords and daggers, and then your range, so staves and bow. And then you have at least a better shot at getting the one you want, and it's still going to encourage you running it multiple times. I don't know if this was a technical limitation or if this was trying to funnel veterans back into that content so that way it doesn't get too stale. I mean, I do enjoy the first part of this change that normal will be able to get those weapons because I'm one of those people who's never finished VMA and I can do normal. I've done normal before. So I'll be able to get in there and get those weapons, which is cool. I'm happy about that. I haven't done VDSA yet. I haven't done normal Dragonstar Arena yet either. So I think I can do VDSA if I can get a group together.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
It's really cool that those low to mid-tier players can get these weapons that are so hard to get. So I really do appreciate that change. I feel like they've been doing a lot of low to mid-tier player outreach lately, and that was something that those light attack changes that were kind of axed not too long ago was supposed to do, and I feel like this was another step in that, trying to bring that in so that way lower players could feel valued as well. I think not only should they do the coffers, but they should offer like a new skin or a mount or something. Say if you get the flawless run, you get a mount, just like the Sunspire mount.
Sure, other than just the title Flawless Conqueror or something.
Right, yeah, just incentivize it a little bit more, just because it does really hurt going back in, I bet, after running it 600 times like poor Mr. Crowley. I can't imagine.
That's very much a thing, too, because it's like, that's the thing. It's just like, there's so much potential. Like, overall, this is so good, and it's just like, it seems like they've even gone so far in the direction of controlling the RNG. Yes, they like you to run stuff over and over and over again, whatever. That's fine. It's an MMO. I guess that's like part of the deal. But it's like, with the transmute stations, that's like, okay, you have an endpoint. I got a crap roll on this thing, but I at least got the thing. They let you kind of fix RNG to extents, and it's like, this at the moment has no fix. It's just do it again regardless of how much you've done it before. So that's where, from the other side of things, I understand the outrage, especially because this isn't new content. This is just them refreshing something that's been out. When was Orsinium launched? I mean, it was essentially the first chapter, but it wasn't called a chapter at the time.
Yeah. And
so
here's the thing.
Launched on console in 2015. I think Orsinium came out in 2016 or 2017?
I have no idea. At this point, there's been so many. But it's so, just as you said that, Lotus, so Gypsy Son and Mr. Crowley in chat. Most of us don't mind a bit of a grind for new things, but it should be with new content, is what they're saying. And that's exactly my thing. Like, if you want to make old content, which Maelstormer, it's safe to call it old at this point.
Definitely.
If you want to make it relevant again, add something new to it. Don't take what some of your player base spent dozens or maybe hundreds of hours to farm away from them. Something they've worked very hard for with a lot of skill level, a lot of it's a very difficult achievement. Maelstorm Arena on Veteran is a very high skill level arena. I've never finished it because I only play a tank and I don't want to make myself go through what you made yourself go through.
Yeah, no.
And finish it on a tank.
Yeah, if I ever go back in, I'm re-speccing my character to be a DPS and not be a moron. Like, I just have no real reason to go to VMA personally.
Yeah, for tanking,
I don't need anything out of it.
None of the arena weapons are used.
The sets are
for
trash.
tanking. It's Why would I need the extra damage on puncture as a tank? I mean,
yeah, my heroic slash does more damage or whatever it is from one of the Dragon Star or something. It's like, great, just what I need.
My 900 DPS is now 905. This is amazing. But what happens is you just take that achievement, take that hard work away from them, make it available on normal, which would have been massively easier. I can't even, like, it would be a lot easier. And you don't even compensate those who worked very super hard to get their weapons or rewards, whatever they wanted from it. That is gonna be a slap in the face. As I said, I never did Veteran Maelstorm Arena. I just went in there with my tank, started hitting the first round, and I was like, I don't even need anything from this, so I'm just gonna quit. I did it on normal with my tank, which took 2 hours, even on normal as a pure tank, but it was doable. If I had grinded it, like, in those numbers, hundreds, and suddenly my weapon became available in normal, or I needed to do it again, I mentioned this on Twitter, I think, but I would probably take a break from the game. That is how big. Another thing is I really hate, like absolutely hate grinding. That's one type of content I can't do in any of the game. It's not related to Elder Scrolls Online, but still, like that's a bit upsetting, you know. Though, and see, some of these people got it a while ago, maybe a few years ago, but imagine you just ran Maelstorm Arena for like 50 times this week, and you learned this change, that your weapon is now available on normal, and it would have taken you 1/3 of the time, probably, to get the same thing if you had waited a couple of weeks. Overall, I don't think this was a good change. Well, this was a good change. The lack of upgrading the current weapons is not a good change that did not come.
Yeah, it's being implemented in a way that's understandably upsetting.
Now, so this is just for PTS right now, right? So this can still change before live?
Well, this is no. Actually, this is not specifically to PTS. This is straight up update 26 combat preview.
Yes.
But again, they are releasing this early, and it will be on PTS, so I assume people, like, it's still open to change, because it still hasn't hit the live servers. And even if it did hit live servers, it would still be open to change. Like, they can at any point go, like, okay, we did this and this and this, and now you're getting your upgraded weapons. But if at any point they decide to upgrade everyone's weapons, and it is a bit late, and people had grinded it again to get their weapons, and then everybody else got their weapons upgraded, that's gonna be a second inferno on this topic. So whatever they need to do,
right away.
Yeah, whatever, like, whether if they want to take action or not want to do anything, they gotta decide and stick to it at this point, I'd say.
Right. Yeah, I just didn't know if this was something that they were just kind of testing out and then could subject to change, just like a lot of other combat changes we've seen on the PTS, like the shield thing from a long time ago. Let's just hope this is one of those things, and they do decide to do something a little bit different.
I'm assuming they did not expect this type of backlash for whatever reason, because it does, like I said, do I think this is a technical thing? No, I don't. I mean, I'm not going to rule it out because I'm not on their programming side, but like, this seems like they just were putting this in to refresh the old content, assuming people might just be like, oh, cool, I'm going to run it for new gear. And it's like, well, yeah, that's fine, but like, that's a lot of people, you know, it's one thing if you run it 2 or 3 times, it's like whatever, but the example of people running it obscene amounts of times, they're like burnt out on that, even if they originally liked it. So it's just like, I just don't think this had the, I don't think this landed the way they planned on it landing. So
Yeah.
again, continue to bring this stuff up. The death threats and stupid garbage like that isn't going to get you anywhere, because unfortunately that's why a lot of things just get swept under the rug, because everybody has a breakdown every single time there's a patch.
Yeah.
But like, I think they will. I don't know. I will be shocked if they don't listen to people on this one, since so many people in this group are kind of like mentioning that this is just, there is logical ways to do this and push the patch through, but you don't need to kind of slight these veterans the way that they feel slighted right now.
Yeah.
And
I
if
mean,
you
it's
do,
yeah, go
sorry.
ahead. No, go ahead.
If you do want to give feedback, you can use /feedback or go to the forums. Just be nice, and hopefully they'll listen. They've been really good about listening to people in the past. So just give your honest feedback. Just do it in a respectful way. But I feel like all that kind of goes without saying anyway.
Yeah, I mean, if you give the feedback in the form of, oh, this is BS, oh, it's like full rage, a lot of cussing and things like that, you're not gonna be taken seriously. You are just gonna be that annoying person. Like, you are not gonna be taken seriously by the developers, and you're not gonna be taken seriously by the community, and no one will engage in proper discussion with you. So your thoughts will not be heard either. So just came up with ideas, be constructive, but criticize. I mean, we all love this game. That is why we are here. That is why you guys are listening to this. That is why we are recording this. But we criticize when it's due because we love the game. We don't like it when they do something that we believe, at least, even if we don't agree within ourselves, that could hurt the game. You know, that's the entire point. So be as civil as you can when giving feedback, but still give your feedback, whether if it's positive or negative. I hope it's negative, because I don't like this change, even though I never did. Maelstorm Arena.
You like half of it, so half of it's positive.
I want to like the whole thing, and it's so easy to come up with something that to me would seem like an acceptable compromise, even if it's just like. But again, you know, I'm of the mindset for I hate RNG. Just let me get what I want. If I can do the thing, don't make it come up to luck. Just give me the thing. Like, I don't like RNG, but yeah, that's a discussion for another time.
Something that could be a cool fix. And okay, I can come right out and say this would probably be a nightmare to code. But if you go into it and you're using the regular weapons, the regular Maelstrom weapons that you got from before, or even if you ran it on normal and got them and then you go into the veteran version, if you could just give a bonus, like maybe you'll give an extra 30% chance to get the weapon you're holding and using in that arena. So if you're using the Inferno staff or the Maelstrom Lightning staff, you have a much more likely chance of getting the perfected version of the weapon you're already using, because obviously that's the one you're in there for. It would suck if you're farming it for another tune, but then just take the staff off and then it's all an equal chance again, or however it is now. And that might make it a little less painful. It's still RNG. It's still getting you back in the game, but you have a higher chance of getting what you're actually wanting if you've already gotten it before.
To be fair, there's so many alternatives that would be better than what there is.
That's true. I'm just trying to brainstorm.
That's the thing, is some things are obviously going to be more appealing than others. Just upgrading the weapons would be obviously what people would like. But like, I'm trying to think of like, okay, fine, I'll even say that's off the table for whatever reason. There's still a compromise that's going to make people less angry at bare minimum than what they're doing.
Yeah. I mean, I once ran Fanglair on normal like 50 times when I was trying to get one shield of Tawa's favor. And I was running with Pugs and I was running with like people from Drunkenborns. It just didn't drop. 50 runs. It didn't drop. I've never been to Fanglair since. And it was on normal, and it was still absolutely horrible experience. Like, I can't imagine how running veteran Maelstorm Arena dozens upon dozens of times or hundreds of times is. So I really, like, again, I never done it, but I really feel anyone who has done it and why they are angry at this at the moment. But yeah, so that was the whole Maelstorm debacle.
Yes. The only other thing which was kind of interesting, it was brought up by Casual Ranger, which some people did, kind of just disagreed with, but it is one of the things that it was. I when I was originally trying to look up information on this and everything like that, a lot of people were like, "Oh, well, who asked for this?" And it was kind of funny because it is one of those things that sometimes companies phrase things as like, "Oh, much requested," and it was mentioned that this was much requested. When I looked up VMA changes, VMA weapons, and stuff like that, every single forum pretty much had people wanting perfected weapons. So this was definitely asked for. Same thing with Dragonstar Arena, but it's definitely one of those. This was not what I think anybody had in mind. So it was a very big, like, oh no, like, this, I guess it really is be careful what you wish for, because this is clearly not implemented in a way that most high-end players are okay with. Whereas it's great that they're raising the floor to make people relevant for content. That's fine. I have no problem with that. But it's just like, oof, be careful not to hit us all in the head with the ceiling that you kind of are moving down a little bit here. Like, that's not helping.
I mean, I'm still upset about them removing the skins from hard mode reward for dungeons and putting it into veteran rewards and just giving a title for hard mode. I'm like, no one knows what the titles are. No one cares. No one really looks at the titles. I just want to be able to show my skin and be like, yeah, see, I was able to complete this. Here's the proof. Just walking naked to show it off.
I just like fashion, so I'm okay with it. That way I don't have to yell at myself internally every time I accidentally let someone die and ruin a no-death. It just makes me feel better.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like, again, I like more content being available at less effort. But that shouldn't come at the cost of content being ripped from more effort and being put into low effort gameplay. If add more to low effort gameplay, yes, please. I'm not playing this game min-maxing or full end game either. I am somewhere between end game and like veteran-ish. But I don't like it when, like, if you're gonna do it, add new content to the more casual side, but keep the more veteran rewards, or get the current veteran rewards to normal, but reward your veteran players for it. Give them new stuff, things like that. Don't just shift the rewards. Add new things.
The big difference there is they didn't. So let's think of the skin from Vet Scale Color Peak. Whenever they released Depths of Malatar to give you the Depths of Malatar skin for just completing it on Vet, they didn't make it so that just completing Vet Scale Color Peak on Vet would get the skin.
Yeah.
You still had to do the hard mode speedrun, no death. So I feel like that's even a different scenario than the changes to Vet Maelstrom, because it's not devaluing those contributions at all. It's just whenever you see the Vet Depths of Malatar skin, you just note that person didn't necessarily do it on hard mode. They just beat it on Vet. So it's something they're doing going forward. They're not kind of punishing the people who had worked so hard to get those more difficult achievements already.
Yeah.
So I think that's why I'm personally okay with it. That, and just because I just ride the struggle bus all the way through difficult dungeons. But so I do think there is a little bit of a difference there. But I get it too. You know, it's nice to have something to show off. I do hope what they do in the future is kind of like what they did with Sunspire, and I think I mentioned this earlier, where if you beat it on Vet, you get the skin. If you beat it on Vet hard mode, you get the title, and then if you do Vet hard mode speedrun no death, maybe you get a mount or just something that you can show a pet, maybe, because I know I really love my Moongrave Fane pet. It'd be really cool to have other little pets that you can have out, because that's really obvious. Oh, they beat that dungeon, you know. And so if they made that the biggest reward, I would prefer a mount, obviously, because it's a huge achievement. I think that might be a better way to go. So like you said, heavily reward the people who did all of those things, and reward your veterans well, and then step down from that, give them the skin.
Yeah. I mean, it's again, it comes to the same thing. Like, more rewards for more casual players is great, but keep compensating the veteran players for their effort as well. It's at the end. Well, I don't know. Maybe this whole inferno of coming to Backlash and like people going at each other will change things with the Greymoor. Like overall, not just for this Maelstorm change, but the reward system of the game in general. I don't know. One can hope. Yeah.
Also,
yeah, go ahead.
Not that I actually have no idea if these are frowned upon or not, but just in terms of VDSA, running those as carries, either business is going to go way up for carry teams or it's going to go way down. Because if people want the perfected version, they got to do it all over again. But if they don't care, then they're not going to have to run that. They could just run normal, and you can like solo normal Dragonstar Arena, but like in probably an hour. So that's probably going to change that business quite a bit.
Oh no.
I still never saw anyone do the carry thing for veteran DSA. Like, where do you find customers for that? Because I can easily tank
I don't run these.
VDSA.
I don't run these things. It's some of my guild mates.
You just show up.
Yeah, I show up and get hit in the face for them while they melt everything.
If anyone wants to pay me,
of course it's frowned upon. In which case, I would never do this.
If anyone wants to pay me in PC European Mega Server for VDSA tanking, I'm available. It's 5 gold per hour of my time. Plus one apple, and 2 gingers. And you will have to do the /red card dance for 2 minutes. It's that last part is the most important part. Yeah.
Well, now that that's out of the way.
Yeah, I think we covered it very nicely.
And see, we didn't even yell, which is how people should take to the forums.
Yes, I was going to say, definitely make yourselves heard, though. Usually they listen. Well, I mean, they always listen, whether or not they implement what we ask for. You know, it obviously needs to be in line with what they want or whatever. But I'll be very curious to see what the perfected bonuses are as well on these, because it was mentioned, as chat is very chatty, which we appreciate. But just referencing it, because I have seen this from a couple people kind of mentioning that it might just bring back the enchant as the perfected bonus, which I think that is lame if they do that, because they took it off just to add it as a different weapon. That is too much recycling. That is not cool. I don't like that if they do that, so hopefully they do not. But yeah, the differences between perfected and normal, I don't know. When you're min-maxing, it absolutely makes a difference. I would love to have perfected Yolakrin, because I get I think it's 1,096 hit points, if I remember correctly off the top of my head, if I had the perfected set. but I do not have a full perfected set, so I only get the normal Yolocrim bonus from Sunspire. When I'm getting my face punched in Black Rose Prison or Unhallowed Grave hard mode when the dude ghost uppercuts me, man, that extra 1,096 health would be real nice. But is it necessary? No. Would I still like it? Yes. Would it make my life easier when we're trying to do challenges? Yes. So there is benefit to it. I don't just because it's not necessary, because that is one of the arguments I've seen, and I agree, it's not. It shouldn't just be totally swept under the rug either. I feel that's very condescending in some aspects to the other side of the playing field, where I wish I remembered her exact way of putting it. I'm probably going to butcher this, but Kika had a great tweet that I thought was very good, where vet players are often asked to understand other play styles. It would be nice if those other play styles would also occasionally acknowledge the way vets play and just be civil about it. So I do kind of agree with that, because it's kind of like a weird back and forth bit, not to anybody in particular, but it's almost come across as like, well, it's not necessary, so thereby you shouldn't care. That's not really the heart of the issue either, I don't feel personally. So it's definitely kind of a tricky balance to get yourself into.
And like the way I see it,
Hopefully
even
that
if
makes
those
sense.
perfected bonuses are completely useless, like utterly useless, no one wants them, people who farm Maelstorm Arena for Dungeons of Ours should still get their perfected versions, even if they are completely useless. It doesn't matter what they are.
There's literally no negative to having a perfected version, even if it's like, oh, by the way, it lets you harvest faster. It's like, okay, great, that's really going to do me a lot of good in trials. But at the same time, there's no other negatives, so I guess I can farm heavy sacks faster. Great, that's easier to get a speed run and get my crap along the way. I don't know, like, there's no negatives.
And like, here's the thing. So I understand wanting to make Maelstorm Arena relevant again, if that is their purpose. That is okay. But someone who already has the weapons from it, so someone who has run the dungeon several times, either already hates it so much that he will do it again for the perfected version, but he will hate every second of it, or he enjoys the content, and if he enjoys it, he'll do it anyway, regardless of the perfected stuff or not. So, like, just give people their upgraded versions, and I don't think that hurts anybody in any way. And as for the point you made for the tweet from Kika, like, on this show, when they announced Crown Store, when they announced Crown Crates, limited time offers for cosmetics and things like that, we were heavily arguing against it because that was the gameplay for most of us here at Tales. The fashion, the costumes, the mounts, collecting them, making pretty things. And people were arguing, oh, but they are not pay to win, they are cosmetics, so it doesn't matter that they are on, they are on Crown Store, they are limited, they are RNG based, because people were after the gameplay, and these cosmetics were, not gameplay elements. And we were heavily arguing that, okay, they are gameplay to us. There's a huge player base that these cosmetics are gameplay. So we were asking people, the veteran, the gameplay players, the hardcore players, to understand that cosmetics mean to us. So Kika made a really good point here that, like, getting that perfected version is the gameplay. Like, getting the best in slot is the gameplay for some. So, it goes both ways. Yeah.
Yep.
I'm glad you brought that up, actually.
I thought that was very well put. I mean, I probably butchered the way it was actually written because I didn't have the tweet handy, but it was one of those things. It was just, I thought that was a good point and something I hadn't really considered, but I found it to be pretty true. And it was, it's just something that maybe some people didn't think about, that it's just, the other side of the fence. It's like, try to recognize each other's play styles sometimes, and it's not just a one-way street. So
yeah. So anything else you guys want to add, or shall we move on to Tales?
Nope. Curious to see if they change anything or if they really stick to this.
Oh yeah,
Crossing my fingers.
Yeah, that'll be actually interesting to follow on this process, and they will 99% make a statement on this. I wonder what that statement is. It may very well be, while I don't think it's going to be a technical thing, it may very well be like, yeah, we can't physically do this due to this. And then I'll be like, oh, okay, well, whatever. I mean, if it can't be done, then it is what it is. I'll just leave it there. But I'm really curious about what the reasoning behind it is, because they generally explain their reasoning. Like, regardless of the decision, there's always a reasoning behind it, whether if we agree with it or not. I'm curious about what that reasoning is going to be. So, that said, I'm tired.
Yeah, we got the heavy stuff done.
Yeah. Weight lifted,
Yeah. So
time to do the Tales. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Speaking of tired, anybody who watches the video version of this is going to see me yawn about 37 times. It's getting excessive at this point. I'm just having difficulty not yawning, so hopefully I don't pass out.
I think the Tales section this week, I mean, that was a weighty discussion, which has been much more, I mean, I always joke that the game dies and the world ends every time they do an update. But this one actually is a little more vitriolic than they usually tend to be. So that was a bit more heavy and lengthy than some of the other times.
Yeah.
And it's funny, on the grand scheme of things, this is such a little change in terms of it affects only one content, one reward, yet it is this important.
Right.
All right, so where are the notes? There we go. Lotus, you seem to have the most typed in. So why don't you go ahead and go first with the Tales?
Sure. They're actually pretty straightforward because a lot of what I did was actually PvP, but since the last show, I did another Vet Asylum. No, I always call it Asylum Sanctorum instead of Etherean Archive. But just goofing around back in the Craglorn trials because they've been super fun. And I realized how efficient it was. I had never solo tanked until last time, and I didn't realize how efficient it was. So it turned out I hadn't had any of the speed runs in any of the Craglorn trials for whatever reason. So the same group that I solo tanked it with, we did it again, and we melted the speed run of AA, which was pretty cool. I think we did it in 23 minutes, I want to say.
Nice.
Which was, yeah, it was pretty sweet. We had, was it 23 or 28? Well, whatever. We had plenty of time to spare. But yeah, it's fun trial, super pretty. Not overly difficult, but yeah, so that was neat, being able to do that. I enjoyed that. The other thing is I actually played a little more Legends, and I haven't talked about Legends in quite a while, but I was most of the way through Legends, and I had a couple puzzles left that I hadn't done. I had completed all the stories, so that was still done. I had ended with the Sheogorath, the Isles of Madness, or whatever it was. Well, I managed to complete the rest of the puzzles with some help from uesp.net, who is in the chat. Many thanks on a couple of those puzzles because, good lord, those were complicated. But yeah, so I have actually completed everything in Elder Scrolls Legends since they're not still making content for it. And I'm just collecting the random cards I don't have so that it can just be 100% everything. But yeah, that game is technically all done. Stories are pretty good in that game. If you ever want to mess around with it, you can get all the stuff for free. And then the other two things of related, worth mentioning, I guess, was I have been playing in Cyrodiil quite a bit, despite the fact that Cyrodiil has been running like garbage for most people. It hasn't been total trash for whatever reason on PS4 with Greyhost. It's not great, but it's way better than the last time I said when I was fighting 3 people and I didn't know if any of our skills were going off, and that was the only reason I was surviving. Yeah, that it's nothing like that. Like, I know what's going on. It's keeping up. It's a little laggy. Haven't had a ton of long load screens. However, I do occasionally get load screens in the middle of combat, which is brutal. But yeah, it's been enjoyable for the most part. And Ebonheart is heroically winning. And then we won the last campaign, and it kicked back off. And I got into the group with the Emperor. And throughout the week, I just kept regrouping up with people that were pushing for Emp. So it was a great AP farm. Got in some good battles. Super fun. Man, I love Cyrodiil. If they could ever iron out all its issues, it is so great. Down with DC. I won't have any of that in chat. How dare you, Bob Chickens? And yeah, it's a great time when it works. Or I don't know if I just have a high tolerance for it or whatever, but as long as it's functioning, I just have a lot of fun in there. I just get in the mood for it, and that's what I was doing a lot. The only other PvP thing of note is I had mentioned I hadn't done any of the Battleground solo queues since they've been live. So I went in to try it out. I'm guessing whatever the MMR thing is in full effect, because nothing against the other people in the games I was in. But they weren't good, because I'm not good. And some of those team death matches were just like comically bad. Like, I'm a tank, so I'm not expected to get a lot of kills. I really can't get last hits. I go with like 3, 0, and 26 for assists all the time. So it's like I'm captain support and no credit, which is fine because that's my role, whatever. But I was in a team deathmatch, and in team deathmatch, there is an achievement for doing 500,000 damage to your opponents by the end of the match. We won. It was a close game, but I got 497,000 damage on my tank.
So close.
Meaning I did not get my achievement, and I added on a tank build. So I immediately made a set of DPS armor and went in to get my achievement because I was so angry that I was that close. I was like, okay, fine, I give up. I'm just going to play a DPS in here now. So I respec'd and went back in as a DPS. So I gave up that struggle bus of trying to do it on my actual build. Yeah, not going to happen. I can't get that close and then fail and tolerate it anymore. So, yeah, I did it elsewhere. But at the moment, I'm actually kind of spec'd as a PvP DPS, which is weird. But yeah, that's pretty much.
Or live long enough to see yourself become the DPS.
Apparently, because surprise to anybody who plays Battlegrounds, all of the bonuses and the medals and the trophies are based around DPS, with the exception of like 4.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just leaned into it. If I'm going to play Battlegrounds, I guess I need to play Battlegrounds as a DPS. Otherwise, I'm just going to get 26 assists plus a game and get like 2 or 3 kills.
One of the things I really am sad about Battlegrounds is that in capture the flag modes, well, not capture the flag, but domination and Crazy King, they can capture the area just by outnumbering you. So even if you are an amazing tank and you can stay alive against 1v4 situations, you still lose because you stay alive there, 1 versus 2, and they just capture it and run away, and you're like, okay, am I a joke to you? What is this? Yeah, Chaos Ball and Capture the Relic.
You can be very useful.
Yeah.
There are benefits, and there are ways to make stuff work. Like I got my hat trick, which is getting 3 flag captures or relic captures because it's not a flag. That's pretty useful since I have an abundance of stam and I'm pretty hard to take down. Yeah. So I would have the DPS just go in and just basically start fights, and most people get very easily distracted from the actual objective, and they're like, it's team deathmatch, even when there's objective markers all over the place. And while they would just fight everybody, I would just grab the relic and slowly saunter my way back to the base because nobody could hit me enough times to kill me. So I was able to get that. Those are pretty good. Chaos Ball, like it was mentioned in chat, especially if I have a pocket healer, that's just collecting points until the game ends. But it's just so many people love to play team deathmatch. You're really close to useless, or at least I am. In a team deathmatch. It's like, well, congratulations, guys. I can give you buffs and I can heal you, and that's really about it, which is why I get so many assists, I guess.
And if the opponent team is somewhat experienced, they quickly realize that you are the tank and won't die, and then they just start ignoring you completely, and you're just running around trying to make yourself relevant and try to get people hit you so you're actually useful, but no one cares about you. You just watch people slam on your DPS while you're just trying to pull fire upon yourself, so you actually do help, but it doesn't work. At least that's my experience, which is why I haven't been doing Battlegrounds lately. Flashbacks. What else? Is that it, Lotus?
That's it for me. That's all I accomplished throughout the week.
No classic Elder Scrolls this week.
No, I was going to say I have not jumped in. Actually, I'm hoping tomorrow to stream some Arena.
Nice.
If all goes well, I will be going back to it because in my ever-standing quest of being home all the time, I don't want to be too useless, so I have basically just been doing projects around the house. I'm almost out of projects, so I guess I'm just going to play more video games than before, even.
Well, hey, that's good. I mean, running out of projects to do. That means...
Yeah.
That's a lot of things out of the way. Yeah.
Yep.
Pixie, what about you? I love the show note that you have. It's very to the point.
It's extremely accurate. I said VMall first time, and then the sub bullet under that is exploded. Period. And I mean that's a pretty good summary. So I actually didn't get a chance to play any games, like not even Animal Crossing, very much this whole week, because I've been busy with real life stuff. But what I did do was the Lore Seekers trial team took us into Vet Mob Lurkage, and it was my first time, and I think there were a few other first timers in there as well, running that trial. It was streamed by Solus Gaming on Twitch. And so people got to watch the struggle. So there were witnesses to me massively screwing this up. So it went pretty smooth at first. Well, did the trash pulls. It was great. And we did really, really well. And then we get to the first boss, and there was a lot of confusion on my part. I was always going to the pad, but I also didn't realize that whenever there's no light there, I'm just standing on a stupid rock. And then I died. And I died a slow, painful death as everyone around me's dying because I can't heal them. And the poor other healer was having to try to make up for me not doing anything. And that was a mess. Eventually we got past that one though. It was okay. It was just it was a learning experience. And we get to the twins. and we got no farther than the twins. Those two are jerks. I don't know what their deal is, but they need to go take a nap or do some meditation instead of the weird prayer phase they keep doing. I think they're meditating wrong because they cause people to explode when they meditate, and that's some serious powers. So I kept noticing whenever somebody would do the switch mechanic wrong, like where you change sides whenever you need to or whatever, the conversions.
Yeah.
At times, we would pick on each other in a very friendly way. It was a super fun night overall, even though we didn't finish it. In a friendly way, like, oh, you blew me up, Bard, or something like that, or, oh, Solus, you got me that time. And they like, knew who blew them up. And I kept noticing that whenever I would just randomly die by a one-shot, there was no name, like, anywhere on there. I'm like, they must have an add-on that's telling them this. Turns out I was somehow managing to just do the mechanic completely wrong, and I just stood there. And that's why I didn't have a name. Because I was killing myself.
You were suicide exploding. Incredible.
Exactly. Yes. I stood there like an idiot. Because I didn't realize that the yellow circle that's under you would disappear so quickly after it appeared. I thought it would just stay if you were one of the ones who needed to move. And it took me a good 15 or so pulls, or what felt like 15 pulls, to realize this. Because someone actually ran into me one time and I saw their name. I'm like, oh my god. Because I kept saying, I don't know who it was, but somebody must have ran into me out loud. And nobody like told me, hey, dummy, it'll tell you right above what killed you. And this wasn't just like, oh, the 50k or anything like that. It was 517,000 damage.
Yeah.
Which is the most I've ever been hit by in this game, ever.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Similar.
That I remember.
In Scalecaller Peak, those if you don't do anything and you try to just power heal through it, which is totally not a thing because you just freeze and explode. One of those hit me for 886 once, and I was like, wow, I almost got to 1,000,000.
Well, I think part of the reason why I don't know of anything that has hit me that hard is because I usually don't have my, like, combat... I can't remember the name of it, but the
Death
thing
recap?
that killed you. Thank you. I don't have my death recap pulled up because this time I had a reason to look at it because I'm trying to figure out who just exploded on me, but it was just me. I wanted somebody to pick on because if it was going to be the same person, I'd just make a Thunder Buddies joke and move on with my life, you know. But it was just me. I am my own worst enemy. And I'm just a little slow. So this time, there was also this whole discussion about which way is left. So you're supposed to go clockwise, which is if you're facing the center of the dungeon, the center of the room, it's going to be to your left. So the thing was pitched, well, what if you're turned around and you're facing the wall? Because then your left is the wrong way. They're like, well, let's move clockwise. And again, if you're turned around, clockwise is the other way.
Oh, Lord.
So there was a lot of confusion and a lot of exploding because of that. But then I was watching the stream of this whole thing to see what other people thought of this. And I saw that one of my go-to tanks was in Solus's chat saying, just make your left shoulder touch the wall. If your left shoulder is on the wall, you're going the right way. I'm like, oh my god, that is the clearest explanation ever.
Okay,
then I told
I'm glad that got
everyone.
mentioned. Because I was going to say, that's how I originally learned it as well. It's you use your left shoulder to wall, or if other people want to do it, you use your right shoulder to wall. Is how I originally learned it. Or you can just use like the entrance exit as 6 and 12 o'clock is another way. But wasn't it Finn who commented on your Twitter that
Yes.
I have the tweet in front of me. I've been waiting to read it.
Please read that. Please read
So,
that.
Pixie tweeted about how these two twins are a-holes, and Lord Seeker Cash retweeted that saying, stupid colored head, stupid chain sides rules, stupid 42k one shot, stupid wrong clockwise things. and then tagged Mike Finnegan, and Finn responded, "Yeah, this fight is where you learn how hard it is to get 12 grown adults to move clockwise in a circle." Oh, I love Finn.
It's so accurate too.
Yeah.
It's
It
so
really is.
accurate.
There were so many discussions about how to tell if we're going the right direction, like reliably. And then whenever I saw Lego post that, I think I saw it like a couple of seconds before Solus read the message because Twitch delay and all that. So I then blurted it out, and they all thought I was smart. They're like, "That's a great idea." It's like, it wasn't my idea, but okay.
Yep, I'm a hero.
And things started going way smoother. We were still kind of screwing up. I mean, it's a really hard fight, and I know at least for me, I still kept blowing myself up. I did eventually figure out, like, oh man, that disappears, so I just need to be staring at my feet the entire fight. And I think I also have something like, I know raid notifier can really help, but I think there's something messed up in my raid notifier settings because it was just not helpful. And it was not telling me when I needed to move, because apparently there is one setting you can turn on that'll say, switch sides. And that's what I need. I need somebody to just tell me, you're standing in yellow, please move. Because I apparently am completely colorblind in that room only and cannot see yellow under my feet. And that might sound like a stupid excuse, but I swear I was looking at my feet and just didn't see it a lot of the times that I just randomly
It's like
exploded.
a pale light rather than yellow itself. It's like light and darkness, so it's definitely not like yellow to your credit. But oh my god, that add-on hurts my soul.
I'm sorry. I have the coworker.
If it makes you
who,
happy, Lotus, sorry Pixie, but I don't use
fine.
those add-ons like raid notifier because I if I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it the way it's supposed to be done, which drives Geo crazy. But
to be fair, it's not a common thing to do that, like whatsoever. That's not like the way most people do it. You make the most out of it, but it's just like, yeah, that, oh my god, I'm just thinking of like
I'm sorry.
some of the things I've needed to use timing on. It's just like, oh wow, like, I guess if it was like telling me that in advance, like that never even would have like clicked or anything like that. That's all. That not to rip on you, it's just that one specifically. I was like, oh god, that's a thing.
Well, it's either that or I'm just gonna repeatedly blow myself up. I don't know. Because I was really trying, but the thing is I set it to the same thing Solus set it to. He was actually the one who told me how to set up my settings for that trial, and it wasn't telling me. So I'm either both colorblind and also incapable of reading in that room in particular, or I was just having a bad day. I don't know. We're gonna see. I think this week, I think tomorrow night actually we're gonna do Vet Sunspire because we have members who need some gear out of there. I have done that one, so I know I can kill that one. I love that one. It is fantastic.
That's a great trial.
So I already have my clear on that one. They did run it on Friday. I told one of the backup healers to take my spot so that way they can get their skin. Wanted to make sure everybody got the skin before I started throwing myself back in the ring there. But it was a really great time. It was really cool to experience. The only time I had ever done Mob Lorcage before that was back when I was still on Xbox, whenever Mob Lorcage was pretty new, and I did it on normal, and it was just one time. So getting back in there and seeing it again and having to do it on this ridiculous difficulty, it was interesting. And then the only other thing I did this week, because I only played today and Sunday, was I became a vampire on a tune that I had abandoned, but I'd always wanted her to be a vampire whenever I made her, but I got to level 4 and then stopped playing on her because I went back to my necromancer. So I now have a Magblade DPS vampire tune. And the last time I became a vampire, I was again still back on Xbox. So it's been a really long time. And I either skipped through the quest the first time I did it, because I think I remember that night actually. I was in party chat. I just was not paying attention. So I actually went through all of the dialogue this time, and it was a super interesting well-written story where you find out a lot about Lamaya Ball, and it was very, very sad. I felt really horrible for her, but I also love her so much now, knowing her backstory and everything she went through. Like, I knew the basic how vampires were created thing, but I didn't realize it really put an emotional side to it that, like, yeah, you knew it was tragic, but seeing a lot of that stuff play out, it was a really well done story. So if you do have a tune out there that you are considering making a vampire for Greymoor, it's a really good story. So definitely make sure you don't just wildly click through it like I did the first time.
I don't like vampires.
And that's all I did. You should make a high elf vampire just because of the magicka stuff, and just to say you did it, so you can see the cool animations, and you can see them on an equally tall person as a Nord. So it's not even that much of a transition. They just have pointed ears. They're both racist. You should be used to it.
No. I don't like this.
They're very similar, as we've
I don't
discovered.
like this.
They're the same, just
I
one is
don't
less
like
altered.
What
Okay,
sort
I'm
of-
done.
What sort of heresy? Alright, I guess it's my tales now. We're gonna ignore
Yeah.
everything Pixie just said.
Yeah, that last bit
edit
doesn't
it
count.
out, get rid of it.
Yeah.
That was the
Maybe
best part, though.
would you look at, remember how I said the episode might get cut off at times because my internet
No,
is spotty?
no, don't you do it. Guys,
Would you
Don't
look
you do
at
it.
that?
you have too
Oops.
much power, but you are the
Oops.
one who does the editing, and I like sleep. It'll just
So
be worse
for
next
everyone,
time.
our you might notice the editing. Just
Just ever so slightly.
yeah. So we had to cut off like internet. Something happened. All right. So I only played ESO apart from doing a bunch of writs and whatnot.
Sorry. SG just called me censored pixie gaming.
Yeah. So
Sorry about that.
I actually have a clip of me pulling all of the mobs on our unsuspecting DPS because Nika and Gio was AFK and Ugo said something I didn't like, so I pulled everything on Ugo
Oh my god.
and basically get him killed, and then they clipped it and called it Ark censoring the truth. It is not uncommon that I do this on things I don't like. No, I don't do it. It was just a joke.
I know, I'm just playing.
If something gets deleted, it's because it was just propaganda and it was lies and it was dangerous to be let out. 100%.
That's correct.
So, my Warden tank. As mentioned last week, I decided to get my Warden tank action ready again. And I did, sort of. I still haven't done any DLC dungeons, but I wanted to ease in, and I wanted to do the non-DLC veteran pledges. And it was Banished Cells, and Ryan was there. This is Ryan Kindred. And we did Banished Cells 2 with Ryan and 2 pugs. So Ryan was healing, I was tanking, and we had 2 DPS pugs, which were new to the game. They were CP, like... I don't remember what CP they weren't too high, but they were
Okay.
new to the veteran dungeons. Like the concept of veteran dungeons. And so Banished Cells is a very hardcore DPS test for new players. It's it has 3 different fights, I think, are DPS checks. It has that, the boss with the orbs that keeps spawning ads. And then it has that massive Daedrots that turn the entire arena into fire. And the final boss, again with the Daedrots. 3 different bosses have DPS mechanics, DPS check mechanics. And our 2 pugs DPS were really not enough. Like that one boss with the orbs that keep like moving around and spawning ads. At some point, I think we had 50 creatures on the screen, and Ryan was just healing through it. I was just doing as much crowd control as I can, and we were just focusing on the boss because we couldn't kill the ads fast enough, and eventually it died. Anyway, we got to the final boss, and it became clear that we weren't gonna clear it because we just couldn't kill the Daedrots and the boss. Like if we kill a Daedrot, the boss would heal with the orbs. If the DPS focus on the orbs, the Daedrots end up in a large number, and it was getting difficult. But obviously we weren't gonna quit. Oops, sorry, that was my phone that I just dropped.
Throwing stuff at us now?
What?
You're throwing things at us.
Yeah.
You threw your phone at us.
No.
First you try to censor me, and then you throw your phone at me.
No, I have no idea what you're talking about. It's lies. I will edit that part as well.
But not the part saying you'll edit it, so then no one will know what's happening.
Yeah, it's total confusion. Anyway, so after a long while, like, we were trying really hard, but it just wasn't happening. So I asked Ryan, like, can you switch to DPS? Not relog with a DPS, just get your current healer and fit it. Oh no, he did relog. Never mind, he did relog. He relogged to a DPS, but it wasn't like super high DPS. I think he was doing 20 to 25k DPS, which is normally enough in banished cells. But even with that, we were really struggling. So at the end, we decided to try. So I was healing and tanking on a Warden that I haven't played in the last 2 years. And I was tanking about 10 Daedrots by the end, because what we decided was we will just ignore the Daedrots, I will tank all of them, and everyone will just hammer on the boss. We got it to 6%, I think 3 times, and it was chaotic. I was like throwing heals, because Warden does have targeted heals, like AoE ground target heals that you can actually aim at people. I was regenerating ultimate like crazy, because Nord, Bloodspawn, plus Heroic Slash, and getting hit by 10 Daedrots at all times. I was dropping that Forced Heal ultimate. Pretty much the first animation disappeared. Before the first animation disappeared, it was super fast. So I was healing, I was tanking 10 Daedrots, I was trying to keep my resources up, kept being like flown into the air by the orbs and things like that. We gave the one of like 4. I've never been in that intense battle in banished cells. That dungeon, even though it is one of the vanilla dungeons, and now it is really easy content for someone who's playing the game for several years now, I had so much fun because it was absolute chaos. And I really got to test my Warden tank as well. And eventually we realized one of the DPS didn't really know what to do with the runes when he went up in the orb. I don't remember what he didn't understand quite, but eventually we figured everything out. And after, I don't know how long it took. It took over an hour, that I know. But we cleared it, but it was like, that was one of the most intense dungeon clears I've had in the last year. Like, exclude Scale Color Peak and hard mode, and exclude, I think, Moon Hunter Keep hard mode, and clearing Banished Cells 2 hard mode
with some new people.
Yeah, was the top 3 most intense battles I had in a dungeon. It was that crazy, but it was really fun. I loved the chaos of it.
That's pretty cool.
This is why you do pug runs, people. This is the fun of doing pug dungeons.
It is funny though. Sometimes when you're used to playing with people who have been at it for so long, or everything's just been, you've done it so many times, it's like second nature. And then when you play with people who have no experience with it, or they don't have CP, that's another thing that I've done with people a couple times. We just take our CP off and do it without CP. It is amazing how much different the game feels, because you never really notice the little CP buffs along the way. But then once you've been 8-10 for so long, or even just anything high for so long, and it's just like, whoop, you just take it off. It's like, oh, wow, this is... You didn't realize how much you had stead. Yeah, it's jarring to realize, like, oh, wow, I get a lot of buffs from CP.
Yeah, I gotta try that. But, like, the best part about our dungeon run also was no one was salty. Like, both of the other players, apparently they met. Yeah, apparently they met, like, a couple days ago in a dungeon, and they've been, like, running dungeons together. And so they were already sort of, like, in-game friends. And they were, like, apologizing for not having enough DPS. Obviously, me and Ryan weren't having any of it. So we were like, okay, you know what? We are gonna finish this dungeon, or we are gonna fall asleep on this. And then, yeah, we gave it our best shot. They gave it their best shot. They actually figured out things to do over time, and yeah, it was a really fun clear. It was intense, but yeah. Also, my Warden tank can keep up with 10 dead rots while healing people, so I'm happy about that as well.
That is a great... I love when people just get insane amounts of Daedros in that fight because your team doesn't have burn. And it's just like, oh, all right, cool, I'll just fight all of these Daedros. No big deal. Just take your time, I suppose.
I was screaming, like, no! And it would pull me up in there. I'd be like, no! Because I have at least 4 Daedros that I haven't got to taunt yet out of the 10. And now I'm flying up in the air,
the field.
and I watch from above those 4 Daedrots that I haven't taunted go after Ryan or whatever, and I'm like, no, put me down. And you can't aim. And whoever designed that last level of banished cells, there is always something that you can get stuck at. There's either a rock, a step, something, and when there's 10 Daedrots around you, you don't see anything. The ground is not visible, so you don't know what's preventing you from walking. So you're just stuck there trying to aim at the Daedrot that is chasing your DPS, but there are at least 7 Daedrots in between, so you can't target him. So now you're jumping in place trying to target over all the Daedrots to all the way on the other end of the map. It is intense. I kind of want to do it again. Just I want to test out how many of them I can tank before dying.
20 Daedroths.
Yeah, it's just frame rate crashes, game crashes because there's too many Daedroths.
If I don't have to taunt them, I think I can pull a big number. But taunting that many, because we don't have an AoE taunt, is a massive resource drain.
Oh yeah.
Like, it's 20... Like, how much is puncture? Stamina cost of puncture. 2 point something K, if I remember correctly.
Something like that. That sounds about right.
That's like 25k stamina just to taunt all of them every 15 seconds.
Just to run a loop of taunts. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, that's the only thing I've done in ESO other than doing my writs and doing the horse feed thing.
What?
The feeding horses, the mount riding skill.
His horse is
I
still
wonder what
wildly out of shape. Yeah.
I thought you said I misheard feed for feet. I was like, what are you doing to these horses?
We brought the horses to the glue factory.
Oh, no.
I guess time to end the show at this point. The brains are doing the things.
Yep. Or not in this case.
Yeah.
Slowly powering down.
Hi, Boots.
Oh, well. As usual, Lotus, any last thoughts or, and where can people find you?
No, last thoughts, be civil to each other when having, discourse about stuff with disagreements. That's always a good way to at least get your point across without getting ignored or whatever. Despite the fact that things are quite, how can I put this, excitable at the moment. I have also had a lot of interesting discussions with people from different angles of it, which is interesting to hear. I always like, even if I don't agree with somebody, I like hearing other perspectives. So, keep it in check. Hopefully, fingers crossed that they can come up with a better solution to please everybody in this situation and not have it kind of slight one set of people with something that is generally an overall good change. But that's really about it. And contentious, I like that. That's a better adjective. Thank you, kids. But yeah, that's really all I have to kind of add to anything. But yeah, I was gonna say, as always, I'm Lotus of Doom pretty much everywhere. So if you ever want to hit me up, I'm on Twitter, Twitch, all that good stuff. Hopefully I'll stream some Arena tomorrow if I get the chance, which I think I will. So,
all right, that was actually one of the most final thoughts we had. So, well said. Very well said.
Yeah.
Pixie, what about you?
Well, I wanted to just kind of echo Lotus's sentiment. Be good people, don't be jerks to people. And that goes past ESO and into your daily lives. If you want someone to make something better for you, it's easier to get help from someone and get someone to do something you want if you're nice to them than it is if you're just screaming at them. So just be nice. Use your brains. Everything will be fine. We'll work it out, even if it sucks a little bit. and you can find me at twitch.tv/HyperPixie Gaming, and you can also find me on Twitter as HyperPixie Games because character limits suck.
Yeah. Well, you two really did well with the final thoughts, so I don't have anything else to add, I think, at this point. I just forgot to mention, but tomorrow we will be having the second episode of Roads Less Traveled, our Elder Scrolls Online themed D&D session, DM'd by Nika, Ophelia Noir, and played by K-Pow, Ninja, myself, and Dawn Whisper. It will be on twitch.tv/Ophelia Noir. I don't remember the time, which I really should check so I can wake up for it. But it's gonna happen there. It might be 10 a.m. EST or 11 a.m. EST. So
I thought last time it was 11. Yeah, I think last time you did 11.
We mentioned doing it 1 hour later, I think. Hold on, let me log in.
Okay.
Look at the.
Yeah, it might be worth just checking because I think last time it was 11, unless I'm mistaken. I know I missed the first couple of minutes, but I got there pretty close to the start. And I thought it was
11 a.m. EDT.
Okay.
Yeah, so around those time, but it's happening, and my next week's Tales will probably have some fun stuff from those, as well as I continue to play my simple-minded node. And yeah. All right.
Who has a thing for Altmer?
No. Yes. No.
Yes.
Okay, we are not having this. No.
Oh no, internet problems again. We're going through a tunnel. Arkhaniir in your office.
Well, you can follow everything we do over at dungeoncrawlernetwork.com. There you can find links to all of our social media, including Twitch, YouTube, Twitter, all of which you can search for Dungeon Crawler Network and Tales of Tamriel. Be sure to check out our Patreon at patreon.com/dungeoncrawlernetwork if you want to help support the show, or consider supporting us over here at twitch.tv/dungeoncrawlernetwork, or consider leaving us a 5-star review on iTunes so people know that we're a real podcast, that we say real words, and sometimes it matters. Thank you all so very much for joining on this episode of Tales of Tamriel, and we will see you all next week. Have a great night, everyone.
Bye.
When Akatosh slew Lorcan, he ripped his heart right out. He hurled it across Tamriel, and the heart was heard to shout, red diamond, the heart and soul of men. Red diamond, protect us till the end. The laughing heart sprayed blood afar, a gout on Seer it fell, and like a dart shot to its mark down in an alien well. Magicka fused the Lorcan blood to crystal red and strong. Then wild elves cut and polished it down to chimel at a ball. Red diamond, the heart and soul of men. Red diamond, protect us till the end. When elves lost Nirn to men, Akatosh gave the stone to Saint Alesh in token of her right to sit the throne. Red diamond, the heart and soul of men. Red diamond, protect us till the end. Red diamond, protect us till the end.